If you were kidnapped and needed to escape the house of a cultist who wanted to feed you to aliens, what would you do? There's no telling what evil monstrosities lurk in the depths of this decrepit old house, so we're going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and why you would never beat the butcher and his house and stay out of the house. This woman is going to absolutely loathe her life. She's been kidnapped and has been put into some sort of farming cage to be kept there for future use on a project she doesn't want to know anything about, except how to get as far away from it as possible. In order to avoid a horrible fate, she has to navigate a series of cryptic contraptions, puzzles, and most importantly, the butcher himself in order to stay out of the house. Her stomach also feels horrible, and she also gets headache-like pains from time to time. Keep that in mind for later. Finding a weak point in the fencing, Roxanne peels the wire back and gets out of the enclosure. Checking the cabinet next to it, she finds a lighter, and this is going to be crucial for her survival throughout the entirety of the game. She then proceeds towards a closet and opens it only to find it leads to another room in the house entirely, and no, we don't mean it's a walk-in closet. There's a couple of desks in this room with a few drawers, and one of them has a paperclip. If we were her, we'd take this with us just in case, because there's a lot one could do with a paperclip. Opening this room's door reveals a corridor with other unlocked doors. Going into a room across the one she was just in, Roxanne opens a few more drawers and cabinets. In one of the cabinets, she finds a light meter, and this can be used to gauge her opacity when standing in the vicinity of certain sources of light. It won't come in handy that often, so we would let the player take it with them at their discretion. In another cabinet, she comes across the sound meter, which is again only useful in very specific scenarios. We wouldn't take it with us, but whatever floats your boat. She comes across a toolbox with a combination lock. Going into an adjacent room and finding a note, she finds a piece of paper with a sequence of numbers on it, 4262, the same number of digits that the lock needs. She opens the box and it's a screwdriver. Okay, this is wonderful news. Right off the bat, we have a tool that can be of various utilities, especially in a house that employs screws generously. Case in point, after finding it, Roxanne finds a room with a vent cover secured by 4 screws. After removing all of them and taking a left, she can see through a vent into the butcher's kitchen, which has animal organs of various kinds spread all over the place, and the worst part of it is, some of them might not be from farm animals. These are not the kinds of meats you'd find at your local Walmart grocery store section. You'd have to be a literal butcher yourself to know how to harvest these parts. Continuing, Roxanne falls out of a vent opening and sees the butcher's mother watching TV. Proceeding to a nearby cabinet, she picks up a couple of paper clips. Then what happens here is odd and does break the immersion. The guy we're getting the gameplay from uses the peek button to no-clip into the sealed cabinet to get the wire clippers. Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of certain core aspects of the game to some extent, but in the same game about literal aliens feasting on human flesh, we guess people are gonna take certain liberties. Hell, if the butcher can float towards us at inhuman speeds, we can glitch through certain things. Honestly, it wouldn't be a puppet combo game without it. She uses the wire clippers to disable the security camera that's monitoring the kitchen, and with that she proceeds to the basement. She cuts the wire that sends the signal to the vent fan. Crawling through the vent section where the fan was, she drops down and enters a room with a rock. We're all tempted to think of a memorable Charlie Brown moment, but what could that be for? Roxanne then clips through one of the cabinets to obtain the backpack. Okay, obtaining this makes us feel more confident than getting any other weapon in the game, because on top of being able to keep track of our items and having them in the same location, we can just carry them with us. We would make sure we retrieve every item needed so far and put it in this backpack so beating this game becomes more comprehensible. She uses the rock to break the windows of a van to get a large wooden plank, and then uses the hammer to pull off nails that have been put through wooden planks to block access to the other half of the house. Going upstairs, she also uses the hammer to get into a room that has a gun in it, and conveniently the player has to physically put bullets into the gun. Talk about immersion. Roxanne grabs various body parts throughout the house. Most of them are in the kitchen. She puts all the body parts she's collected onto the scale, and then a gear pops out of the back. Don't worry, you won't even have to have rudimentary knowledge of machinery to do this. She puts the gear into the back of a nearby clock, winds the clock far enough to the right, and then makes a ton of noise and opens up a secret entrance to the house's attic. She puts the wooden plank over the barbed wire pit to get to a room that has an odd sort of ritualistic formation of bones in it, along with a shed key and a way outside, but this isn't the exit. Outside, she finds the butcher's victims in sheds similar to hers, and it's a macabre, disturbing sight, but what's even more disturbing is the fact that if we think about them, we're not focusing on our own survival. If that sounds Machiavellian, then indulge in the harder way to get this ending, along with the Steam achievement. Saving them is an ending for another time. While the butcher is distracted getting one of his victims, Roxanne gets a battery from the smoke detector, uses it on a can opener, then gets out of Dodge. Okay, Okay, from here on out, we'd pay close attention to this can opener because it seems incredibly peculiar this game would have this piece of working kitchen machinery, in a kitchen that consists of mostly useless props. When Roxanne hears the butcher's mother rolling around, she shoots her. Great work. Threat neutralized. Roxanne gets into a room full of barrels, and you should ignore 2012 PewDiePie memes because this is actually a good thing. She goes through a closet, goes into a room, and pulls out a battery from a radio. She puts duct tape over a conduit and gets a third battery. She puts a can into the machine, and a key for the front door pops out of it. She opens the door outside, and the sky is red for some reason? Just thought we'd mention that. Okay, this is the point of no return. Once it's go time, you should be booking it like you're attempting console command levels of hyperspeed. Going through some sort of shed or barn, she runs through some shrubs into a clearing. Once she's there, the butcher appears, and taking influence from Limp Bizkit, packs a chainsaw. Do you guys even remember Brick Stuff? Christ, we're old. She runs into a trailer park and comes to the last trailer, asking whoever's inside for help. Presumably having his Among Us session interrupted, a man voiced by Corp's husband answers. But before she can go and remember when we said Roxanne had head and stomach aches, the game ends with her vomiting blood, and then abruptly cuts to the stay out of the house logo, with Roxanne having learned a valuable lesson. In horror games, it doesn't matter if you win, because either way, you're screwed in the end. But what do you think? How would you beat Stay Out of the House? Let us know with a comment down below. Thanks for watching.